Hey, habit thrivers. If you're ready to rock your next chapter, this is your place. It's time to live your most fit, fearless, and fabulous life. I believe that our daily habits and routines set the foundation for achieving our dream lives and help us find more passion and clarity with less doubt and uncertainty. So let's get cozy. Grab your planner and your favorite beverage and come along with me on this journey of reclaiming your passions and finding new ones along the way. Hey there, everyone. Do I have a treat for you today? In this week's episode, staying with the theme of enjoying more blissful sleeps, I have an interview with Matt Hassett, who is the founder and creator of the Lofty Alarm Clock and other innovative sleep products. His mission is to get our smartphones out of our bedrooms. Man, is he singing my song. So welcome to the Habit Thrive podcast, a podcast for women in their me now years. And apparently over the last few months, some men in their me now years too. So welcome. I'm Lori, your host, and each week we come together to create habits, routines, and rituals to regain our power and our awesomeness to live our best chapters yet. And sleep is an integral part of making this happen. Before I introduce you to Matt, I just wanted to say that this episode speaks directly to the importance of bedtime rituals, which include limiting social media time and distractions from our smartphones throughout the night. Full disclosure, I do not own a Lofty alarm clock. I don't even have an alarm clock on my bedside table, but nor do I have a phone on my bedside table. But I have to admit, sometimes when I wake up in the night and I want to know what time it is, I have to sit up, look over to the other side of the bed to my husband's alarm clock, and this wakes me up a little bit more than I like. So, after my interview with Matt, and having read many reviews about others' experiences with this dimmable alarm clock that has supporting sleep sounds and techniques, I am going to indulge. So I will keep you posted on that. There are no affiliate links in this podcast in the show notes, only direct links to the Lofty website if you wanted to go have a look and wanted to actually play. It's lots of fun to do that as well, to be able to click on the different buttons and really get the full experience. So let me introduce you to Matt. He is the founder and CEO of Lofty, a New York-based company dedicated to creating better tech-life balance for people everywhere. He began working on the project that eventually became Lofty at the design firm IDEO, where he was an entrepreneur in residence. He participated in studies that promoted a healthier lifestyle like digital detoxing. Taking the knowledge he gained, he applied the IDEO research methodology to conduct studies on actual consumers, their sleeping and waking habits, while also working with specialists within the breathwork and meditation sphere. All of this to create the most intuitive and reliable product possible. And I have to say, having played on their website, that the woman doing the meditation sounds a lot like me. It's actually kind of freaky. So the result of this, all of his work, is Lofty, a smart device that doesn't rely on a smartphone, a revolutionary take on your morning alarm designed to get the phone out of the bedroom. So if you are curious and want to dive into the discussion around digitally detoxing your bedroom, here we go. Welcome, Matt, to the Habit Thrive podcast.
Thank you so much, Lori. Thanks for having me.
I am over the top excited to dive into our discussion today for lots of reasons, but two reasons for sure. Number one, sleep is one of my favorite topics. So that's number one. And for those of you who have been following along the podcast for the months of October, and I decided to move it into November this year as well, because there's just so much to talk about. This is, again, why I am happy to be here with Matt. So number one, to talk about sleep. Number two, to talk about his products. And he's going to be speaking to the Lofty products throughout this discussion. And why I love this is that I am a product geek. I always have been, and I love when particular products solve problems, especially related to our health and wellness. So I think it's a perfect pairing, and this is why I'm so excited to have this discussion with Matt today. But before we jump into, let's say, the specifics, Matt, can you tell my listeners here a little bit in terms of how you came to designing, and actually feel free to let us know what the Lofty products are. I have done, since we began chatting a little while ago, I have looked into the alarm clock and the lamp. I still have some questions for sure, but I'll let you start us off just in terms of maybe connecting your story to how you came to designing sleep products.
Well, that is a great question. And I have to say, I never started thinking I would create an alarm clock. I never thought I would be selling alarm clocks. It's not really, wasn't what I dreamed of as a high school kid. But I'm very happy with the product that we've come out with. And now we are expanding a lot beyond our initial flagship product, the clock. But it really did start from helping to change people's habits, which I know is your focus. And
Yes.
I was really noticing back in 2016, 2017, when I first started working on this, how addictive the habit of social media is and how we can just scroll all day. And it was right before, it was maybe a year before Apple had come out with the screen time app that tells you how much you're scrolling per day. I was noticing people around me were doing things like deleting Instagram for the weekend and then installing it again on Monday, or some people were like opting out of Facebook entirely, and now Facebook is increasingly passe. But it's at the time it was a key part of people's lives, and they were
Yes.
getting off of it, and so or it was a warning sign for me, and so I really wanted to help to solve this problem. And it was a personal thing for me. I was wasting a bunch of time on Instagram. So the first iteration of a product was basically like the screen time app from Apple, except that we had rewards. So you set a budget of screen time, and if you hit your budget, you got points, and then you could redeem them for a cup of coffee or a workout class or something like that.
Right.
And we did prototype that at the design firm IDEO, where I was a entrepreneur in residence, and people liked it, and I was excited about it. But then I saw that some of these businesses that have just this ever increasing rewards game, it just becomes kind of unsustainable. Like Groupon, for instance, famously didn't really
Right.
work out. So I decided that if it's going to be, something to help you with your phone use, it really needs to be separate from the phone, and it couldn't just be an app. And then I began to think about ways to design a better environment that created little reminders around you that slowly shifted your behavior. And so that it wasn't relying entirely on your willpower and your knowledge that, hey, I really shouldn't be scrolling on Instagram, but actually a set of cues and reminders. So the alarm clock, was this discarded daily object that post Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone, we all just thought, well, that's just in my phone now, and I'm going to get rid of the thing that used to do that. But actually, some things need to be unbundled from the smartphone. And I
Right.
think the alarm clock is one of them, because you can really sub in a smart designed clock for the phone before, during, and after sleep. And it's going to vastly improve your sleep. That's where
Wow.
it started.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna let you keep going here because I mean it's just such an interesting journey, but like that's a big aha moment of separating out the alarm clock exactly from the phone. And the concept with the habits, that is, I would say, over the last few years, talking about what, in terms of the evening rituals, what is the number one habit to actually habit to hack, habit to get rid of. It is stopping social media at a certain time in the evening for sure. Usually I'm recommending at least an hour before sleep. And then, as you said, well, no, you have not said as much right now. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that a little bit more. I've read so much, actually, Matt, I can keep going further, but just the importance of having your phone out of the bedroom, having the device out of the bedroom. Thank you for highlighting those two right from the get-go. So I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, I think that's really what it came down to, that getting the phone out of the bedroom is a huge advance for sleep. And so we can't, physically pry the phone out of your hands out of the bedroom. And I actually, it was interesting last week, our customer support team was telling me that a customer who bought a clock on Amazon was complaining that he bought our product and he still, had his phone in his bedroom. And we cannot go into your house. We cannot force you to put your phone in your kitchen, but we can take a lot of the features that are good from your phone and put them on our clock. And you can, set this up for yourself for success. So for me, for every night, I probably an hour or so before bed, put my phone in near the dining room and I plug it in and I try my hardest not to look at it because I'm still getting emails. I'm very tempted to check, how are our sales doing? How are our ads doing? But I try to put that down because I know it's not going to serve me for getting ready for sleep. And so the things that the phone, used to do, we can do on the clock instead. So we can play wind down content, we can listen to a meditation, we can listen to a story, we can put on brown noise, we can put on nature sounds. And then one other feature that I really appreciate about the clock is what we call the bed signal. And it was really inspired by Matthew Walker's, author of Why We Sleep. First tip in his appendix says, set a bedtime alarm, set an alarm for bedtime, just the same you would for waking up. And I've seen a lot of what you shared on your podcast and elsewhere is, having a plan for getting ready for bedtime and being very methodical about, kind of laying it all out. And so this is just a helpful little signal. So you set your bed signal and then a nightlight comes on the clock and a lullaby plays. And, maybe you think adults don't need lullabies, but I think this is a really helpful reminder. And it is that kind of Pavlovian cue that we start to get in the habit of, okay, my bed signal goes off, and then I'm going to put my phone away, I'm going to brush my teeth and start that cascade of habits that ends with a more calm brain and sleeping.
Oh my goodness. Well, for sure, lullabies, I think. And it just pairs so nicely with the fact that as we turn the lights down at night and things become dimmer, and it's that signal to our body and our brain that we are hunkering down and getting ready for sleep. And that difference between seeing the blue lights and the bright lights and anything that actually will do the reverse. And I've heard you speak to that as well, just in terms of like what these lights do to our sleep chemicals. One of the benefits of not having the device in the bedroom, having an alarm clock, a sleep promoting, actually, I'm going to say energy. I'm not just going to say even light, but it has a sleep promoting energy and ambiance about it. And honest to goodness, everyone who's listening, I have not seen this clock. But again, as I said, I'm a bit of a geek, and so I've gone down every rabbit hole before before Matthew and I have come here. And the pictures, this is the thing that was really interesting when I was looking at the reviews, is the number of people who have sent in photographs of the lamp and the alarm clock, like by their bedside. And so proud of the look and the ambiance and the environment that that's creating. And sometimes we don't think about that. We don't think that the color of the light, that the size of the clock, how things are set up, they're all signals to our brain. Well, first of all, that we appreciate the beauty, that like the atmosphere around us, and it's lulling us, as you said, to sleep. Actually, when you mentioned lullabies, I'm going to pick up on the comments and the questions around the stories, like how stories on an alarm clock, how they can help us sleep.
Yeah. So in terms of the aesthetics that you mentioned, we're very proud that we've been in the MoMA design store since we launched really back in 2020. And you can find us on Goop. And so we're very proud of that, that people recognize the beauty of it. And I think that you're right, that there is like a totemic reminder and sort of signal to yourself, like I'm investing in myself. I'm choosing to set my bedside up this way. But focusing back on the stories, we started initially with some stories that we created that we wrote. And then last year, we started to incorporate AI into our products, and we created something called Magic Story Maker. And you can now create as many bedtime stories as you want. You can start from the app and then they show up on your clock. And they're about all kinds of things from, a sleepy walk in Tuscany to a vacation at the beach to a story about your pet. And they're all made specific to you. We also have generic ones. You don't have to do the work if you don't want to, but if you want, there's these fun stories. They're great for kids. Kids really like hearing their name in the stories. It's not just for fun either. A story helps to distract ourselves from our own worries and shift the narrative from our own personal stressors to what's going on with that character in the story, helping to lower our cortisol levels, helping us transition from a busy day and all the thoughts we had during the day into sleep when those thoughts are not at all helpful to our sleep. And it just in general helps to kind of signal to our brain. It's just one more of those cues that says, okay, this is the time for sleep.
There are so many points in what you shared with us. First of all, the fact that realizing this as I'm researching more around sleep and as I'm going through my phases of sleep and my phases of life and my chapters of life, that sleep, when you talked about the kids can use something like this. So from this concept of moving devices out of the bedroom, phones, iPads, all of that, for our kids, all the way up to where I'm going to say a few years ago, because I think I mentioned I did have a light clock so many years ago that we didn't even, honest to goodness, if I look back, we didn't have phones. That's how long ago this was. And we have phones now. And that wasn't the case just a few years ago. And so the phones now are going into the bedroom. They're tracking our sleep. So you were talking about tracking the screen time, but then they're tracking our sleep. And I agree with you on that. You mentioned this as I was listening on another podcast. Yes, it can be part of your wellness puzzle, right, as you're putting things together. But in general, it could have the opposite effect. And that's my personal opinion. I don't track my sleep with a phone. I don't have my phone in the bedroom. But I'll tell you what I do is I've tried to Bluetooth it from another room because I want to listen to the breathing meditations and I wanted to listen to Audible and listen to the stories. But from a habit and routine perspective, to try to Bluetooth it and set the timer and have my headband, right, with the Bluetooth headphones in there, I couldn't swing it. It was just way too much organization for me to do just before bed. So that's been a little bit of a journey, but realizing that this is an issue more so, and I would say since COVID as well, there's more stress, there's more anxiety, so there are more sleep issues across the board. So then when you come back to the fact, and let me just clarify this, on the alarm clock, it's not that you actually have to set your app up somewhere else or use your app in the moment. Like some other products, everything's actually right on the clock. Is that right? You do not need your phone in the bedroom at all.
That's right. And that's really one of our key differentiators against our competitors is that you can do everything on the clock. The way it's set up now, you can actually probably do more on the clock than you can on the app. We have two types of customers. One person wants nothing to do with the app. The other person wants to be doing, stuff on the app that reflects on the clock, even though the clock is 3 feet away from them. They'd rather interact with the app. And we are catering to both types of customers. But we started out on that former tack. Our goal was really to make the clock itself completely independent of the phone. So you can browse all the meditations, the breathwork classes. You can do that right from the clock. You do not need your phone anywhere near you. Once you set up the clock initially, you never need the app again. That's your choice. You don't have to get rid of it. You can, if you want to keep it, you can set your clock from anywhere in the world using your app, if that's useful to you, whether it's, away at your office or wherever you are.
Right.
But you don't have to use the app. And something else you said, which I think is a really interesting point, and I think about a lot, is the furthest form of tracking your sleep, sort of obsessionally, is orthosomnia, where there's an obsession with tracking your sleep. And I think a lot of us have, a lot of the kind of biohacking, optimizing folks do have that condition, and it can be harmful for some people. For many people, it's totally fine. But if you become so anxious about, oh, my Aura Whoop told me that I got 10% less deep sleep last night. These devices, even the best ones are not completely accurate. And it's just, you really want to look at these on a sort of a monthly basis rather than day by day, like grading yourself. Don't give yourself such a hard time. It's going to be punishing if you focus on that. So these are helpful things to kind of level set where our sleep is and what we can focus on.
Right.
But I don't think it makes sense to use those really to fix it. I just often say, don't just track your sleep, fix your sleep. And so there's a lot of things you can do that don't involve tracking your sleep at all to improve your sleep.
Exactly. Well said. Yes, yes. Kind of circling back to, not kind of, but circling back to the storytelling and the option of having generic stories or creating your own stories, the meditations, the different sounds as well, as you said, yeah, are available. What I've been playing with over the years, for sure, has been kind of that smorgasbord of when we are letting go to sleep, and if and when, but very often we will wake up. And I've spoken to the fact that that's kind of normal to wake up between sleep cycles and not to sleep, but it is getting back to sleep, which is the ideal place to be. But having the smorgasbord of, okay, is my mind really busy, or do I want to be distracted totally with a story? Do I want to follow my breath and listen to some sounds? Do I want to follow a guided meditation? And you start to become aware of, not necessarily is it the same thing every night, because we're going to bed actually with a different story. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have our own stories, and we will go over our stories in our head of he said and she said and that happened and what's going to happen tomorrow. And I remember going to a Buddhist meditation retreat where the instructor spoke to the idea of just close the book.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just stop the story. And what you're saying is, it's a good idea to follow somebody else's story. I just made that connection in the moment, because our brains, they love stories, and our brains love to close the loop. They love to close the loop of the day. And when you mentioned the stories before, I thought it just makes so much sense to explore that idea of listening to, and being along in somebody else's story. And you spoke to from a gardening perspective. Why is that in my head?
Oh, I think we had a special edition clock with some gardening stories on it. Some of our first stories with AI were tied to our sage colored clock, and we had created some
Oh.
very boring gardening stories. We we are trying, our AI stories, we're trying to make them the least interesting possible, which is kind of odd, but that's what you really want. You want something
Yes.
that you can kind of vaguely hear and keeps you out of your story, but
Yeah.
isn't totally engrossing.
Oh, it's perfect. It's just like, as the experts say, don't get engrossed in a book, for sure, even if you're reading it, that is too stimulating before bed. But you're right in that, to have that in the clock, because that's what our brains do. They like to finish the day with that. So that's a wonderful combination that you have going going on there. And actually, on your website, there's an area that you can kind of play around a little bit, right? In terms of pressing buttons and
Yeah, on our website, if you go to the clock page, you can fully use the clock virtually on the screen there the same way you could at home. So you can try it out and see how it goes. And then you can also download our app and try out Lofty Plus for free for a month. And that's the main feature of that, is the stories that are made with AI.
oh,
And you don't need the physical product to listen to those and make those.
and I'm embracing AI for sure. I think, from honest to goodness, from a sleep perspective, I now have an ongoing document that I just keep asking AI. I will wake up in the morning and say, I woke up at 3 o'clock. How many stages of sleep did I go through? And it gives me that bit of a calculation through. And I said, I thought I actually got enough sleep by the time I opened my eyes at whatever time it was. And then if I'm groggy in the morning, and this has just been lately, this has just been probably in the last couple of weeks. And if I'm groggy in the morning when I wake up, what stage of sleep am I getting up in? So I find the more information that I know about, not so much my sleep from a tracking perspective, even, but just from using sleep information as a way to just calm myself and say, there is so much information out there that is, if you don't get enough sleep, you're doing this to your heart, you're doing this to your brain. And sometimes, and you mentioned that fact coming back to the tracking, that it creates fear and it creates more stress. And so reversing that conversation around, even though we may not be getting 8 or 9 hours every single night, if we're resting, if someone's telling us a story, if there's nice, music going in the background, if we're doing our breathing, that is creating rest for the body. And I think, again, the more that we can create that atmosphere and then recognize that this is actually what's happening. I might be up at 2 in the morning, but I'm doing my breathing exercises. I'm listening to a guided meditation. And in the day, we might have that in our habit tracker and beat ourselves up for not doing our meditation and not doing our breath work. When in the middle of the night, we're like, oh, I was up at 3 in the morning and I had to try to do my breathing to get back to, to get back to sleep, or I had to use the clock to do this. And it's actually a good thing. There's benefits. There's benefits as opposed to waking up and going, okay, what do I do? I don't have any tools now. All I can think about is what I'm not going to be able to do tomorrow because I'm so tired. But the more tools that we can have, I think, I feel that I'm more rested and I'm calmer in the morning, even if I didn't get, let's say, the traditional 8 hours. Actually, on that point, I had a question around the way that the clock, and you can mention the lamp, for sure as well, the different light settings. I know it's a lot, but and people can, when I share the website, when we talk about that at the end, can have a peek around as well. And I really encourage people to look at the reviews and the comments because they speak to the habit of sleep. They speak to the relief that people have when they're finally getting sleep. So whether it's a combination of tools or one specific tool, this world is a better place if more people slept. So the question is around when we do release and let go to sleep. So you talked about the lullaby, the notification, right? And I'm right on the lullaby already. So how does it, gradually get us to sleep?
Yeah, I think part of getting a good night's sleep is setting up a great wind down routine. So, one thing that I was thinking about when you were just discussing how stories can help, another very low tech thing I do is just have a pad next to my bed with a piece of paper and pen, and I just kind of write down. I have a lot of mostly anxiety driven thoughts. Oh my gosh, I need to email this person. I forgot to do this. And so I just write them down and then my brain stops looping them. So I find that plus if I do wake up in the night, I do tend to play one of our meditation tracks and it helps me focus on breathing. So between those two things is how I wind down. But I know you had highlighted in the email you had sent me, you were talking specifically for older adults, a lot of the difficulty of setting up routines to help to try to get back to the sleep. We remember as teenagers, and teenagers they get the most sleep because their circadian rhythm actually has them sleeping more than, our 8 hours. That's our target. So I think that's something that I'm really conscious of as I'm getting a little older myself and how much harder it is to get sleep. And that makes that bedtime routine so much more important. And so having a sort of a checklist of things you're running through can be helpful. And as you get older, the time you start to feel sleepy gets sooner. Your circadian rhythm is kicking in earlier, and you're probably waking up a little earlier. And so it makes our wind down routine even more important. And so when you're trying to fight, primetime television or Netflix or your phone's notifications, it's so important to start to disconnect from those things in order to get ready for sleep so that you can really enjoy the next day. So you're not just in this kind of groggy haze the next day, but you do have to take a little bit of a proactive step to start that. And then the more days you do like that, the better you feel over time.
That shifting, the shifting as we go through different stages of our lives, and the shifting that actually has just happened in the last 2 weeks, just with the time change. So that shift, that time, as you're talking, the circadian rhythms, and when the light is hitting our eyes, and that adjustment. So that is the time that I always say your routine's 365 days of the year, but we can get away with things perhaps a little bit more sometimes in the summer. But when we hit October and November and that time change comes, our routines and our sleep routines are absolutely our health anchor. And this is, this is why it will continue. This is why I spend 2 months of my my podcast on sleep. And I think it's when we can find that right combination of our wind down routine, of whatever support that we can have externally that doesn't have us getting up and looking at lights and punching things into our phone, I think is ideal. So is there anything else, Matt, that you're thinking about from a overall habit sleep perspective that you want to share?
Well, one thing that comes to mind, you had mentioned the lamp. I know we had emailed about this controversy over blue light. The other one is red light. And so just to briefly explain that we, unlike a lot of our competitors, we sell a separate clock and a lamp, and we don't combine them together into a blobby thing that you end up having a clock and a lamp and this other thing on your nightstand if you get one of those things, just because they're not very good reading lights. So we designed a lamp that actually can be a reading light, but is also a wake up light. And where the light travels up the base of the lamp, like the sun, the locomotion of the sun. And I was thinking about that in particular with the, I said controversy, but there was a lot of focus on blue light as the culprit with our phones. Initially, that was what we focused on. And there may yet be some impact from blue light, but a lot of what's been discussed recently with more recent research is that it's less the blue light and more so all the stimulation from your phone that's really the main issue.
Right.
So a lot of that, the FOMO of I need to check my phone, so I'm gonna just sneak over and look at it one more time, and then an hour later you're not asleep, and just the emotions that come in, from the news or from a text. So that's been a lot more the focus. But the one type of light that is helpful is red light, which has a longer wavelength that tends to be promotive of melatonin production. So
Okay.
red wavelength light more helpful than other types of light. So if you're trying to wind down but don't want to be in the dark, red light can be a helpful option to get enough light to move about the cabin safely, but not get too woken up. So I just wanted to plug my red light friends out there.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a couple of things coming from that for sure. That the idea of the progressive, and again, years and years ago with that progressive light, which was that's why I'm looking at your at your lamp for sure, because I would wake up, there'd be 5 levels, and I was usually awake between the first and second level, and sometimes people aren't going to be woken up with just light. But I think once you get into a routine, once you are going to bed at a similar time and getting up and you're using something like, and whether or not that light is outside, outside your window or however you want to, light is what can and will wake us up. I always really, yeah, I enjoy it's such a gentle way to wake up. So again, that our cortisol is not. Same thing again with that your clock wakes people up as well, so that the cortisol is not spiking as soon as you wake up in the morning. Yes, that is what is getting us up. Our cortisol is coming up, but it doesn't need to get up that high.
Yeah.
And then we spend the rest of the day trying to get it back down, as it likes to just keep going up and down depending on the stresses of our day. So the gentle wake up is hugely important for our health. And that's interesting. I didn't realize that you could read by that lamp as
It
well.
is hard. I can't say that I can personally read to red light. The really hardcore sleep aficionados do try to do that. I think it's more for not tripping over your shoes next to the bed, in my opinion. But
Yes.
we
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have a night mode on our lamp that's more of an orange, so it's not pure red, but you can actually read to it,
Okay. Oh,
and I
it's
find
all.
it calming.
Yeah, at the same time. Oh, that's so interesting. All right. Before we share a little bit more around the products, and yes, it is, we're coming into the holiday season, and we're coming into actually Black Friday sales and all that kind of stuff. So we will speak to that. But your number one habit for sleep, that, and I'm going to give you the whole day on this. It can happen anywhere in the day. It can happen just before sleep, assuming that you're using your clock and your lamp. That's all good. Outside of that, what is your number one habit for sleep?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's kicking the phone out of your bedroom. If you do that one thing, your
Yeah.
sleep's going to be better. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to set up the right environment. So, cold, dark, quiet, you have to do all those things for sure. Just kind of table stakes. But then I really think a lot of our problems right now with sleep are just because this phone is too close to our bedrooms and we need to get it out of there.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy a lofty clock to do that. You can do that today. But I think it'll really help your sleep.
I love that too, right? Because you can do that in steps, as you talked about willpower, right? That if you decide, knowing yourself, and this is an Ayurvedic, coming back to knowing our personality and knowing if we are, Pitta is very, type A, and how connected are you to your phone? Could you just go cold? And it is truly going cold turkey. I just asked this question to a young person in my life. Could you not have that, wake up to your phone in the morning? Could that phone be outside your room? And it made him kind of think there for a little bit, and kind of came out with a yeah, maybe. But so you do have that habit perspective of it is can you go cold turkey? And so you might decide, okay, well, I'm just going to try to move my phone out of my room. And then if I need something else, then yeah, there's step two. Or you say, I'm going to get my phone out of my room. I need something else right now. So you know your personality, and you know what kind of incentive, perhaps, that you might need to do that. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is the absolute, from my perspective, shutting social media down outside, even the bedroom, like an hour to two before, and then not in the room. So we're going to get out there, Matt, and we're going to champion this. We're going to keep going with this. So your website is
bylofty.com, byloftie.com.
okay. Okay. Now we want to mention, so the product is manufactured in the States. So to come to Matt, I'll let you explain that, what's going on with the Canadian side of it.
Yes, we are going to start shipping it from Canada in 2025, but starting next week, we'll be shipping into Canada from the US. So we can't get around the government and the tariffs, and that whatever Canada charges to import, that will be paid for now. But
Right.
next year, we'll actually have product in Canada. And sorry, we don't have it yet, but you can go to our website now and we can ship to Canada. You can also find us at Holt Renfrew, and we used to be at Essence, but they are I think they're cutting a lot of their electronic products. So, but
Right.
Holt Renfrew does stock the clock and lamp as well.
Nice, nice. And you've got some deals going on right
And it's
now.
Black Friday coming up,
Yeah.
and so we'll have our best deal of the year on Black Friday. So check out bylofty.com, sign up for the email so you get the heads up when we launch our Black Friday offers. We have some early bird offers already, and then there will be not as good a deal probably, but there will be discounts in December. We these are some of our most busy months, and we have run out of stock of many of our products many years, for better or worse. We are a very popular holiday pick, and we're flattered to be in many gift guides, from Architectural Digest to Goop to the New York Times, and this is a great gift for to yourself, if just to get through
Mm-hmm.
the tension and the anxiety of holiday and being with your family. But it's also a great gift for your family, for your friends, anyone who you know struggles a little bit to get a good night's sleep. And I
Oh,
should mention, in addition to the clock and the lamp, we do have a lot of other sleep related products. So from sleep masks to we're actually coming out with a couple of new products. We're coming out with mouth tape. We're launching a sleep supplement. So there's a lot of new products that we're launching as well. And the best thing you can really do for your sleep is to experiment and see what works for you. So try out one of these things, whether it's from Lofty or not. If you want to try mouth tape, you want to try any supplement other than don't take melatonin, but
oh, I
there's a
so
lot of
agree
other.
with you.
Yeah, it makes you so groggy the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
day.
I love that. I've read up on them. I have not tried the mouth tape either, but I have read the research, so it's all very interesting. And I so appreciate your interest, your passion to again get out there and not. And it's so obvious speaking to you that. Yes, I mean it is about your passion about the product and getting it out there. That but comes from a place of wanting to help, of wanting to make. Yeah, as I said, it sounds a little bit to make this world a better place, but I cannot say that enough. That if we all sleep better, it's going to be better.
We all need
Oh,
sleep, and about a third of Americans are not getting enough sleep. And yeah, it's one of we skipped the scary parts, but not getting enough
yeah.
sleep is associated with heart disease, with Alzheimer's, many chronic conditions, diabetes. But it's in our hands to harness it and get better sleep and protect ourselves from some of those scarier diseases.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that is part of that. That's part of the incentive for sure. And yeah, we could keep going on. Okay, this is my last comment. I'm gonna say that, as we say, oh, I sleep good enough, or I've never been a good sleeper, or it's never gonna change. I just going to say this is why we have these conversations is that perhaps the right combination of tools has not come along yet, and it sometimes is a lining up of motivation and yeah, definitely sometimes yeah, exploration and curiosity combined with yeah, the right tool. So this is why we keep doing what we're doing. So I so appreciate our chat today. And yeah, once I hit stop recording, I'm going to be talking to you about some product.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much for having me. I had a wonderful time speaking with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you everybody for listening in again. This will be, if you are listening to this podcast episode and it's way past Black Friday, you might be listening sometime in the spring. Again, you can still go and visit the Lofty website. But if you are listening, because this is going to drop in a few days, then you do have that opportunity to connect. So have a great week, everybody, and I'll chat with you again next week. Bye for now. If you love this episode, I guarantee you're going to love exploring all the amazing opportunities that await us in reclaiming our awesomeness together. So come on over to my Facebook group, Women's Wellness Community for women wanting to rock their me now years, or let's connect over on Instagram at Habit Guru 365 and make the Habit Guru podcast your healthy new habit.